In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where I've said this every day for the past week, but we're expecting very, very cold temperatures here in the eastern and central regions of the United States. And we've really been undergoing them already for a couple of days now, so it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. This is expected to worsen though. We also expect numerous snowfall chances. We just had one for parts of the mid-Atlantic just yesterday. We do expect more potential chances for portions of what I would call the northern southeast, the mid-Atlantic, and the northeast. The Ohio Valley, Midwest, and Great Lakes will also have a fair chance as well. So lots of snowfall opportunities coming up. Let's take a look quickly, though, at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook updated today on February 12th. This is for the 18th through the 22nd. What we see is a very significant cold pattern extending from the central states here all the way down to the south central, moving into the east, including that kind of like southeast, northern southeast, mid-Atlantic area, into the true mid-Atlantic, and even up into the northeast as well. So this is just going to be widespread cold. We see near normal to even warmer temperatures in some places out west, which will act kind of as a positive PNA. All that means is warm temperatures out west. That causes cold to move into the east oftentimes, so that would make a lot of sense here. When we look at the precipitation, we can see that we're going to see a drier spell now. As we move on the days, we can tell that in the longer range, we're going to start to dry up here for these northern regions, and we're going to move back into something a lot more reminiscent of what we saw in January. A lot of storms moving through like this, a lot of storms moving through like this. That's going to be the general flow, and you can even tell that a lot of these will originate from the northwest and move through the Rockies into the southern plains and then up through that southeast area. Very dry in the southwest, and again, quite dry across the northeast and north central. When we look at the 8 to 14 day outlooks, this will run from the 20th through the 26th of February. We can see that we get significant warming in the west, and this is going to be a more true positive PNA, and we can tell that the heart of this cold really moves deeper into portions of the south and eastern areas. So we start to see this colder air take place more across the southeast. Again, this is maybe even more reminiscent of what we saw in January than anything. And that is going to unlock some potential, in my opinion, for areas across the southern mid-Atlantic, even parts of the southeast to see potential snowfall, the deeper south. These are areas that we can't rule out at this point based on the pattern that we see coming up right here. It could be cold enough, and when we look at the precipitation, we can tell that a lot of this is going to be suppressed to the south by this point. So these areas here are going to be the main areas to watch, maybe on the northern extents of these for potential snowfall. Of course, we're not looking at highly below average precipitation, so there could very well still be quite a bit of precipitation through here, and likely that would come in the form of snowfall. Now, the past 10 days here, we can see still a continuing cooling trend across the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast, and this will continue to push back the warmth here, and we will overall, once we're looking back, I think all of these areas will, for the most part, be colder than normal by the time we're ending off February, because we're already cooling. We're going to see much colder temperatures coming in very soon. It'll probably be enough to turn the tide. Now, the European model, something interesting happened today. We're looking at the 0Z model run, although the 12Z run should be out. It should have been out for hours, but the European model actually had a problem today. I've been trying to wait for the 12Z run to come out. They've had some errors and issues, and I don't really even know if the 12Z run is ever going to come out, and I don't know when they'll fix the issues. Hopefully we get a 0Z run tonight. Hopefully we get a 12Z run tomorrow. But for now, we got half of a 6Z run, no 12Z run, and now we're stuck with this full run, which is the 0Z run. So just kind of letting you guys know that that's why we're looking at a little bit of an outdated model run, but this is the most up-to-date European model run that we have at this point. And this was as of last night, so I'm going to move us forward to more like when you'll be watching this, which would be right around 7 p.m. Wednesday Eastern time. We do see some low pressure here across Tennessee and the lower areas of the deep south, and we do have an enhanced risk of severe weather this evening for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. That is going to be a little bit elevated. Again, just like yesterday, we will look at the Storm Prediction Center. We do see snowfall beginning here for portions of the Great Lakes and Midwest like we've been calling for, and the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast could see a mixed bag of precipitation overnight. So let's move a little further This is by the time we're looking at 7 a.m. and we see snowfall is slowly but surely coming to an end for the Great Lakes. It's all but said and done for the Midwest. And that thunderstorm activity and severe weather is now moving closer and closer to the southeast. Again, a little bit of a mixed bag of precipitation for regions of the mid-Atlantic and northeast here, where we have snowfall for some areas, ice and rainfall, but all of this is kind of moving northward. So areas that are staying as snowfall might eventually mix over still. And areas that are pink and green here might have seen some snowfall a little bit earlier. But as we know, snow events that turn over to rain typically don't lead to very long lasting accumulation, so it's going to be hard to really break that down. And yeah, by the time that storm is ending, which will be about 7 p.m. the next day on Thursday, tomorrow, we see mixing all the way up to the Canadian border almost here. So really almost nobody ends up with all snow there. We end up seeing a massive storm system moving onshore to the west here, 990 in between Oregon and California. And this leads to a lot of Sierra Nevada snowfall, also Cascades and the Rockies, and lots of much needed rainfall for the lower areas of California in the lower elevations and coastal regions. We are seeing quite a good amount of rainfall there. Also, showers and thunderstorms pretty prevalent throughout the southeast coast here, likely coming to an end sometime tomorrow evening. And by the time we're looking at Friday on the 14th, a lot quieter in the east. The west is still seeing major snowfall and pretty significant rainfall for areas outside of the mountains. But the east, very, very quiet right there on Friday, like we've been showing actually for a few days. By the time we reach Saturday on the 15th here, what we're seeing is this storm system goes ahead and does almost what we've been talking about, where this low ends up over Arkansas for Saturday. Snowfall across the Rockies and some of the plains, also the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, Great Lakes, a lot of areas seeing snowfall. And we're going to be watching for another severe weather event in this same exact area, where now we have an elevated chance of severe weather popping up in the long range according to the Storm Prediction Center. So that's going to be another more major event to watch for. And this is going to happen likely, unfortunately, overnight, because here's 1 a.m. and we're starting to get those really severe storms in here. Your low is a 995, again, 1 a.m. So very late in the night. We do see the Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast still seeing snowfall from this one. As we continue a click forward, this is 4 a.m. and we see, again, severe weather in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. So unfortunately, kind of a later event here. Definitely concerning. We have plenty of dry, cold air hitting this one from the side and moving in behind it. It's going to usher in actually a pretty massive cool down. And we have warm, humid air racing northward out ahead of it. And this is really a recipe for disaster. Low is right in between, as it always is. And that is going to spell all of these areas being in the crossfire of a potentially pretty dangerous situation. And it's still ongoing by the morning. This is 10 a.m. Eastern. Likely thunderstorms and severe weather in the southeast here. We're starting to see areas switch from rainfall to snowfall across the Ohio Valley, so ending off with some snow. 987 here, a very strong low for Sunday the 16th. All the way down to 980 here, near the Finger Lakes regions by Sunday afternoon. Again, heavy snowfall for the Ohio Valley overall in eastern Canada. Some wintry mix here across the northeast. And again, thunderstorms up and down this area to the south of that low. By the time we're reaching Monday, that storm will be basically done, obviously. And we end up with much colder air in the east here. So really next week, we're going to usher in the very cold temperatures right out the gate. We do see some snowfall extending from the northwest all the way across a lot of the plains and Midwest here. It's not significant, but it is there. That's worth noting. I want to take us towards Tuesday, and what we see is our next storm system getting going here across some of the, I would say, south central states. We're seeing this low trying to form here somewhere near Texas, North Texas there. Snowfall perhaps for areas of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, already a little bit of a deeper south snowfall event there. By the time we're reaching the afternoon of Wednesday, we see that this is a lot of the Tennessee Valley here, almost the Ohio Valley, Midwest area seeing lighter snowfall. We see pretty significant moisture here, so we'll have to see if this low can come together. And it does. It's a little further south than previous model runs. We see it way down here, but we still end up with some North Carolina and Virginia snowfall, but it's a lot more exclusive than it was in previous model runs. So we'll have to watch and see, but it's been pretty consistent with this kind of being the area to watch for this system around the 20th. Of course, we're between 7 and 10 days out from this one, so it's definitely something that we need to monitor, but this can change quite a bit. Of course, I live in this snow area right here on screen, so I would love for this to be the case, and I wish I could tell you, hey, this is for sure going to happen, but you can anticipate it could stay pretty consistent, but you can anticipate likely some changes down the road with this. Now, as we reach towards Friday, I want to take us straight to Friday afternoon. That storm moves out. We get some activity trying to come together again across the central states. We get this rich moisture to the south, some snow showers to the north, and a pretty significant area of snowfall over the southern Rockies there, all trying to come together. And Saturday, we end up losing that low pressure. We still have a lot of rich moisture moving in. And then we have snowfall to the north where this cold is interacting with that rich moisture. So that's how we end up with this area here of some snowfall. Potentially thunderstorms and severe weather here across the south central. This doesn't look like the most organized, major severe weather event I've ever seen. But I could definitely see the case for some severe weather chances and certainly some isolated thunderstorms in there with this type of moisture. By Sunday, we start to get a little bit more of an organized low over the Smoky Mountains. Again, thunderstorms and showers underneath it likely, and some snowfall to the north. Although by this 23rd date, we have a little less cold to work with, although we have the positive PNA out west that you can see. It's not the richest cold air in the world, and that's why we're seeing a lot of like light green, light blue mixing around in there. It's not consistently very cold there by the high temperatures of Sunday, but by the time we're heading overnight, Monday morning at about 1 a.m., we see this moves offshore. We get heavier snowfall from this as that low is developing, and we have much more cold air because we've reached into those low temperatures between the 23rd and 24th. So another kind of mid-Atlantic and northeast threat to watch 23rd, 24th time frame. That cold gets even worse here as we reach towards Tuesday the 25th into Wednesday the 26th there. This is deep, deep cold across the eastern states, reaching really far to the south, and we have a massive area of warmth and high pressure across the west. Now, as we take a look at the GFS model, storm number 1 moves through. We're not going to see too many differences there. Storm number 2, Saturday on the 15th here, we see it coming together, and these happen almost back to back. We get a lot of snowfall to the north here, like the Midwest, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast. But again, that rain snow line on the east is going to creep northward. And as we head overnight, same thing. This is about 1 a.m. We see major thunderstorms happening across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, perhaps Tennessee as well. And they will be moving into Georgia after this point. I would say that this GFS model is a little bit earlier with the arrival of this, which would be good. I think that the closer it is to like 10, 11, 12 at night, as opposed to like when people are for sure asleep, like 2, 3, 4 a.m., is going to be overall better. So we can probably hope that this happens a little bit earlier, just so that people are aware of what's going on and semi-awake, at least a lot of people, as opposed to it just being like plain old middle of the night. Now by Sunday, we see that this one, it is a pretty major winter storm. We see mixing on the eastern end, but again, snowfall kind of moving down the Ohio Valley. So we could see some shifts with this. We could still see some changes. We need to see what happens, but this isn't a widespread all snow event as it stands from both of these models, unless you're here very close to the Canadian border. A little bit messy. I think the severe weather of this one underneath is going to be the bigger factor. Snowfall in the northwest by Sunday as well. And as we keep going, we get our next storm, the 20th one here. We see it move through again, Kansas, Missouri, a little bit further north with it. And we see the impacts are further north as well. Once we get the snowfall on the eastern end, we see the Gulf states, but it moves all the way up to the mid-Atlantic. Remember, this is the one that the European model had pretty exclusive here for Virginia and North Carolina. Their rain on the GFS model, this one is a major mid-Atlantic and kind of Appalachian mountain range snowfall event for the 20th time frame, and it gets even more major actually. 991 here with pretty widespread snowfall throughout southern New England and portions of the mid-Atlantic. This would be a pretty hefty snow system on this model, definitely more major than what the European model shows. We see that one lasts quite a while and then eventually moves out. We have potential, slim potential around the 22nd on this model. We get a low trying to form in this western Gulf area. And there's marginal cold air. Really what would need to happen is we would need more significant cold air, and we could have a deeper south snowfall event from this one. You could already tell wintry weather is trying to take place in some weird areas like Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas. If we had more cold air available to us, that could extend eastward, but we just don't see that happen on this particular model run. It really just moves off innocently, doesn't really become much of anything. Eventually we get another low around the 25th time frame. We have plenty of cold air, and this one is more of a true kind of nor'easter, and we see it move up into a 978 millibar low pressure center, which is intense. The precipitation field is pretty narrow, though. We see heavy snowfall for areas of like Delaware, New Jersey, southern New England, up into more coastal Maine, but it is very exclusive. Until it gets up into New England, we get a 968 here. This is a massive system for Connecticut, Long Island, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine here. Absolute crusher, 966 just offshore of Maine. That would be a New England blizzard probably in that case, although it's very far out, so take it with a grain of salt. And it looks like by the 28th, we have more cold air moving in rapidly, just as we've seen throughout this model run. And then some storminess is trying to get its act together along that, so probably more winter storms after this point if this model is correct. Now, the total precipitation, we see quite a bit in the west. More significantly, though, we see even more along this eastern area where we've already just seen a lot. I've gotten we've hit above our February average of precipitation, basically, and we're only at the 12th. I think I averaged like 3 inches in February of precipitation. We're up to like 3.2. So with more and more inches on the way, I have to imagine there's so many other areas like that where it's just like puddles outside, it's muddy, and there is so much more on the way. So that is very significant. And what's also significant is a lot of this comes in the form of snowfall. Looking at the anomalies, we could see that there is average to, below average or above average here in the west. The east is just plain above average, and it's pretty significant, especially for the blues and greens, where over the next 2 weeks, basically through the end of February, a lot of this is 1, 2, maybe even 3 or 4 inches above average for the final 2 weeks of February or so. Crazy stuff. This would just amount towards maybe a lot of areas seeing 5, 6, 7 inches total on the month, which is just insane. So we'll see if this verifies or not. Regardless, like I said, a lot of this, especially coming in the form of snowfall, definitely significant. Speaking of snowfall, here's the European model. And we see, again, Mountainous West does great. More of your Midwest and Great Lakes and Ohio Valley does really good as well. Plowable amounts a lot in there. Again, if you want to see the bar of like the actual amounts, it's at the bottom of your screen. For the color codes, Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, okay. I know a lot of these areas just saw snowfall. They get a little bit less in here. Definitely I could see where the Mid-Atlantic folks would want more than this probably, but the Northeast doing quite well. GFS model, though, going to be significant. We see the Plains get a little bit less. The Rockies get the same amount. Then your kind of Ohio Valley, Midwest, Great Lakes areas do great, but the Mid-Atlantic through the Northeast get feet of snowfall still in the GFS model. In the European model, it's a lot less, but still, all of these areas on both models do see numerous chances at snowfall, so I think regardless, we're in for exciting times here. The temperature pattern is really just going to be cold. We get these little southeast ridges up the east here, as you can see, like Thursday the 13th, back to the cold for Saturday the 15th, and then back to the warm for Sunday the 16th. That's when the major cold air comes in, though. Monday the 17th here, brutal cold air that lasts through the week, basically, all the way to Sunday, Monday here, where we're back to close to normal, but then we get another really quick blast of it for the 25th, 26th, 27th here, and we're still just warm in the west, cold in the east, and it doesn't really change at all through the entire model run. GFS model, let's play it through. Again, we get these little southeast ridges, but it's cold, severely cold here after the 17th. Then we get this second blast of it again on this model as well, 25th, 26th, 27th. It looks like we've warmed up here by the 28th, but then look, we got another major Arctic air mass really quickly moving into the east again. So both models still show no end in sight here as far as the cold temperatures are concerned. Quickly, let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. Here's the day one outlook. And again, enhanced risk there for some of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. I'm going to start with the lighter greens. It's where we expect a general thunderstorm risk area. General thunderstorms are expected. But severe weather is possible, not expected though. The darker green area is where we expect some isolated severe weather to perhaps take place. We call that our marginal risk area. The yellow there is your level 2 slight risk, where we expect more scattered about severe weather reports to come in. And then the enhanced risk, level 3, for the orange area is where we expect things to get a little bit more scattered to widespread, somewhere between there with the severe weather reports. So a little bit worse in that area. Day 2 is going to be a significant step down. We see some general thunderstorms perhaps throughout California and then parts of the southeast. We do have a level 1 marginal risk there for the Florida Panhandle, parts of southeastern Alabama, and then southern Georgia. For day 3, we get 2 general thunderstorm risk areas, one for the Four Corners and then one here for some of the deeper south. But things really get going when we look here at the day 4 extended day outlook. This is going to be for Saturday the 15th into Sunday morning on the 16th. The yellow area there is a 15% chance of severe weather. That translates roughly to a slight risk, so a level 2 slight risk. The orange area here is a 30% chance over Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. Again, pretty similar areas to what we're seeing today, just 4 days from now. And that roughly translates to an enhanced risk of severe weather. So another larger risk day coming up for Saturday the 15th. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.